Abandonment and rejection doesn't just hurt externally, they're going to hit the body like a threat. And that's why people don't feel sad when someone leaves them, pulls away, rejects them, or chooses someone else. They're going to feel panicked, destabilized, physically sick, obsessive, ashamed, desperate to restore the bond. And because it hurts that badly, people start making some kind of a meaning of it. So they're not just thinking, hey, this relationship ended. They're thinking, I wasn't enough, I'm replaceable, I'll always be left, and this proves my deepest fear. So, what we're going to talk about today is abandonment and rejection, why it hits so hard from a scientific and psychological perspective, but also why people are terrified of losing, often do not deserve that level of power that you give them. Hey, everybody, and welcome back to the Positivity Experience. It's your girl, Lori. Damn, am I excited that you're here. We are in May. Damn, the year is going by so fast. But I'm excited to be here. I'm excited to talk to you about this topic. I try to plan all my topics at the end of the previous year for the 52 weeks. Every now and again, something will happen in a session and it'll get brought up again. And someone will say, can you please possibly redo that? Not redo it, but add this again, because they like to access it versus scrolling way back into the podcast. So that's how this topic came about. I have tons of other ones on attachment, and I'm really excited to talk to you about this. This is what I would say is one of the big pillars that people struggle with when they come to me. And when they're tired of their own stuff. This is important. I am only ever good enough for the person who's tired of their own stuff, tired of feeling this way, and tired of projecting that on other people. So that's why this is the topic today. Over on Patreon, there is a worksheet for you to print off and start. Really evaluate, look at where your deeper fears are, your reactions, where they come from, why you're resistant to working on them. Because yes, this is your job. This is your responsibility to work on it. It isn't everybody else's responsibility to make you not feel rejected. And that's where the rubber meets the road. And that's the difference of victim mentality versus growth mentality. So jump over to Patreon, patreon.com/the positivity experience. Yes, I take clients. Yes, I see them on Zoom all over the world. Feel free to get on the mailing list, get over on the worksheets. You can see it all, but go to my podcast episodes and the Patreon, but you can also work with me directly on my website, The Positivity Experience, and you can find everything I just told you in the show notes, which is the description of the show, anywhere you're getting this episode today. My goodness. So before I jump into all of this, we're going to go into a few things. So we'll talk about science because everybody wants to know the science of it, but I'm going to bring some human to this. And if you're not quite ready to look at yourself in this, because maybe you feel that if you hear this, somehow or another, you're going to feel worse about yourself, then maybe this episode isn't for you. And that is okay. So I want to kind of give that up front so you can decide if you want to listen further or if you don't, because I am going to put a lot of this responsibility upon you once I discuss it. And if you're not in that place to do that yet, it's perfectly fine. You're not behind anybody. Just know that that's where we're going. So if you're ready, let's buckle in and let's go. So let's talk about social pain. You know, it's kind of interesting too, before I even go down that road, you know, there is something called psychosocial attachment. And that's where you start falling in love, or really, I know this person and it's a celebrity or it's a character on TV, and you relate to them and you suddenly look at them as friends and family, and they don't even know you exist. Believe it or not, there can be a level of rejection to that. If in fact, let's pretend you were on the street somewhere, you saw them and you were like, hi, and they were just like, oh, hey, and then they just kept walking, you'd be like, oh my God, I feel so dejected. We're also going to talk about the projection on why you automatically project and why they project on you. So this isn't just about yourself. I want you to be mindful of the people who are looking at you to fix their abandonment and rejection, because that's going to be problematic too. So let's talk about the science of social pain. So here is what you need to understand. The brain is going to process social pain in a way that overlaps with physical pain. That's just how your brain works. This is why the brain is it, crazy intelligent and super not, because it's going to believe what you feed it. And that's, I've said this before, you might see something in the dark, you swear it's something that's coming to attack you. It really isn't, but your body takes on that role and you start freaking out. And then you turn on the light and you're like, oh my God, okay. So your brain is going to process any levels of social pain and it's going to overlap with physical pain. This is where you hear people say heartbreak. The obsessive thinking now becomes a headache. But social rejection is going to activate different regions associated with distress and pain processing. So that's why for you, that rejection can feel very sharp, very immediate, very consuming, and very physically painful. So your nervous system does not clearly separate this. I'll tell you, like I tell my clients. So there's two parts of you. You have this part of you that's listening to this podcast. Maybe you're doing sessions with me or doing sessions with somebody else. You're trying to do those things and you're gaining all of this clarity. Number one, stop trying to consume all self-help all day long. That's going to be massively problematic. Stop doing that. Don't go to bed listening to self-help. Don't go to bed. Journal before you go to bed. Don't go to bed listening to self-help. Don't self-help yourself all day long. That's not going to help you because you're trying to make some fast fix just stick. Don't do that. But anyway, so that first part of you is the part of you that's doing the work, going through the motions, getting clarity. Like, yes, there's my aha moments. There's always going to be a part behind you, and that's your nervous system. So your nervous system is always going to lag, at least for a very long time, behind the part of you that is going through the intellectual part of it. Because your nervous system doesn't believe you. It's going to have to get used to the fact that silence or peace isn't problematic. It isn't a danger sign. So you're having to train your nervous system. And just because your brain goes, yeah, we don't have to worry about them. They're not for us anyway. You can logically know this, but your nervous system is always going to lag behind a little bit. So don't get frustrated and don't say to yourself, why would I do that? I know the answers. Yeah, but your nervous system doesn't. So your nervous system is still operating from a place of, ooh, if this is uncomfortable, it must be dangerous. No, discomfort does not mean danger, but it's going to take your nervous system a lot longer than your logical brain to catch up. So just be aware of that. So if you ever say to yourself, why do I feel this way? Even though I know, because your nervous system is still learning. So the rejection piece of it, the abandonment piece of it. Now, they go hand in hand, but abandonment can also come from somebody crossing over, somebody dying, and you feel abandoned by somebody who crossed over. Like my mom passed away March 25th of 1985, and my birthday is April 7th. So it was a short period of time before I turned 14. And you go through a bit of that, and then you go through a bit of victim mentality of, this isn't fair. Why'd this happen to me? Why does everybody else have things that are very normal in processing, but you don't want to get latched onto that, because then you're going to take that and be like, well, everybody I love, everything I care about just goes away. Be very careful, because that's a very slippery slope to live and remain in victim mentality. So now let's think about somebody else. Have you ever had anyone close to you, not close to you, doesn't matter, just tell you, everybody leaves me. Nobody loves me. I give everything. Nobody cares. Have you ever had that happen? That's them. That's them. That is their abandonment and rejection that they have to process. Don't go coming in on your white horse with your sword drawn to save the day, because you can't ever give someone that peace and fill that void that they're not working on. And then you're going to feel like you're just banging your head against the wall. So your nervous system, like I said, does not clearly or cleanly separate. It does not separate someone left me from I am in danger. Because again, it's not using logic. Your nervous system could care less about logic. But that's because human beings are wired for a certain level of connection, but not every connection has to stay a connection. Every relationship in your life does not have to be saved. Doesn't. So the problem comes is when you have attachments, you want that person to do it. And this is where if you have a boundary and, let's say your boundary is, whatever it is, no one gets individual boundaries. You're not making them for people. You're making them for you. Go back and listen to that episode on boundaries. It's a ways back. But when you understand this, you're not saying you have to do it. You're saying anyone who wants access to me and wants to, kind of evolve this relationship. Well, these are my parameters. Yes, boundaries are rules for yourself. It's always funny when people go, "Oh, you're making boundaries sound like rules." That's exactly what they are. What do you mean? They are that. Your boundaries are rules that you set for yourself. Don't worry about everybody else. You're setting these rules for yourself. Now, they don't have to be so, oh, you break a rule, it's going to be a problem for you mentally. No, but you're making this to where you understand this is it, period. So when you're looking at that, your nervous system in the beginning is going to feel a little bit like, ooh, this sucks. And then you want to be really careful of then now projecting how you felt or how you feel onto somebody else. This happens on a regular basis. This happens with animals. This happens with situations in the world. It's you are projecting the experiences that you have or have had. So don't sacrifice your boundaries because you're worried about how someone else feels. Go back to that podcast a couple episodes back, like 3 or 4 episodes back, on feelings are not facts. Stop projecting your attachments, your abandonment, and your rejection onto other people. Now, think about somebody doing that onto you, like I said before. These are the please don't leave me. If you leave me, I might harm myself, which is master manipulation. And this unfortunately does happen a lot more than you think. But from an evolutionary perspective, belonging was going to increase survival. Isolation was like, oh, well, you know what? That saber-toothed tiger is going to eat you. At least if we are in a pack, if we are in a community, one of us can look at each other's backs. So if you go into the part of your brain that we call your reptilian brain or your survival brain or your critter brain, it's all the same thing. That's why we get wired that way. Because back in the day, way back in the day, we needed that if we were going to survive. But not everybody who leaves or says no, it doesn't mean it's a rejection. But if you feel as though it's a rejection, feel as though it's a rejection, then you look at it and go, uh-oh, something's wrong. Got to fix this. I got to fix this right now. Then that urgency right there is biological. But biology is not truth. It's just your body going, oh my God, we're getting ready to go on this hunt for the saber-toothed tiger. I can't have this person wandering over here. I need this person. So again, if you take the emotion and the attachment out of it, it's just a wiring. Now, some people are going to get harder with abandonment than others. So not everybody is going to react in the same way. The intensity of abandonment is going to be shaped by a multitude of things. Of course, we have attachment history. Attachments, I'm an attachment, boundaries, and ego specialist. I work in other areas too. But when we start talking about this, it is something that it's just proven, like it's not an opinion. But if love was inconsistent growing up, so let's go back into understanding the why. We're not going to live there. We're not going to woe is me. We're not doing that. Woe is me. Don't do that. But if love was inconsistent, if it was conditional, if it was unpredictable, I know in my house, I had ridiculous amounts of unpredictability between mom being ill, dad being an alcoholic, my older brothers and sisters having, so many other issues, not just mentally, but, substances. And it was always, I would say, 7 days out of 10 or 7 days out of 10, 7 out of 10 of the days, that would just happen in a 10-day period would be chaotic, would be conditional. You'd want to leave. You'd want to flee. If somebody was in a bad mood, they'd take it out on you. And so 1 minute you're good. And if somebody else is pissed off, then that was like, whoa, I'm unsafe. So we know that it comes from unpredictability, emotional unavailability. Some people are just emotionally unavailable and it has nothing to do with you. So your nervous system may associate closeness with stability and lack of closeness with instability. So when someone pulls away, it doesn't just feel painful, it feels familiar. Let's bring the feelings back in. A feeling is an interpretation to a situation, and that is all a feeling is. I stripped away all the science. You want to know the science? Go on back and listen to it. But a feeling is merely an interpretation of a situation. And yes, that can come from being familiar. So now, if you had all of these conditions and all of this conditional stuff, at that younger age, you do not have the emotional maturity, and your frontal cortex is not mature enough to be like, wow, this person has their own drama. Like, you're not aligning with that. You're just taking it as like, damn, like, I'm like, what's wrong with me? Now you're an adult, or most of you listening are adults, not everybody, but let's say most of you listening are adults. You're still getting locked into that 8-year-old person who felt that way growing up. But this is where we want to separate those situations, because you're here today. And this is where the responsibility, I'm putting it back on you. You are responsible for you now. You didn't ask to get in this position where the trauma and the rejection and the abandonment is a thing. You didn't, but you are here now. So this is where rubber meets the road, and you have two options. You can stay in the, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, I feel bad, I feel bad, I feel bad, somebody, I don't want them leaving, I don't want them leaving. Or you can go, I am here now. Let me address this. Let me look and realize that the people who I was worried about being, well, because again, you don't even know the word rejection at that age, really. But those feeling states, you're not comprehending it back then, that it's all about really them and their lack of tools. We will always be the product of the unhealed people before us. And we will screw up our children. I need you to understand that very clearly. Stop trying to do things perfect. Your job is to screw them up 1/10 less than what you feel that you were screwed up, because you're learning these tools along the way. And even if there was such thing as perfection, and there absolutely is not. I did a podcast on that like last year. There's no, perfection's fake. Motivation is fake. So when you're looking at it from this perfect place, pretend you dotted every I, crossed every T, did all the parenting advice. You're like, damn, I did good. I can promise you that that kid is going to find something that they feel you created trauma. So you're going to have to understand that. So when you start to look at it and the emotional unavailability, you didn't ask for that at 7, but let's come back. Let's pull back 10,000 feet and look at it now and go, damn, they were emotionally unavailable. Of course, you're collateral damage. But when you start realizing it wasn't about you at all, then you're going to disconnect their behavior from your feelings. In a good way. I don't mean like, whoa, I'm just going to pretend it doesn't exist. When you start realizing where a person is and not taking it so personal, a person's opinion of you, that's on them. Again, if everyone likes you, you don't like yourself, because that means you're not being authentic, because your authenticity is not going to put you in every room. Your authenticity is going to put you in the spaces that you need to be in for the people who are ready for you. Which is why I said, if you're ever going to work with me, I will not coddle you. I will hold space and I will give you tools and I will be your biggest cheerleader. But I will not let you sit there and come in and just constantly victim all the time. You will be when you first come to me, or anybody else for that matter. So it's just really important. So the idea and why it works is when you come back, you got to be willing to own your stuff, that you're here today. And this is where you got to stop trying to drag other people to therapy. Stop trying to drag them to get help. Stop trying to drag them to heal. They have to do it on their own time. So again, then at that point, if someone's pulling away, then it just doesn't feel painful. It feels familiar. Emotional neglect. Let's just kind of capitalize on that too. So if your emotional needs were ignored, you might not even know what they were, minimized, or then treated like too much, that rejection may trigger that own old wound of, I don't matter enough to stay connected to. Now, this is where, and I hear people say this all the time, I don't feel like I'm enough. I'm going to ask you the same thing I asked them. What does enough mean to you? People are like, we know enough. No, what does it mean? Because there is no base foundation of enough. You're associating them telling you that they love you or not leaving or whatever. Not everybody is meant to be in your space. And you don't want a person for the sake of having a person. And this is where we got to look and we say, am I so afraid to be alone? Being alone is not bad. And until you're willing to sit with your thoughts, sit with your feelings, and really go, I'm here now, I'm responsible for me. That's why my 5 journals, go out and buy those 5 journals off my website. That's why the 5 journals are imperative. You want a place to put your feelings. It's not, you don't just pretend they don't exist, but be very careful of putting your identity as that for yourself. That's going to be a nightmare for you, and it's going to be really hard for you to get on that merry-go-round. If someone is not capable or willing, because somebody could have the capacity and just not willing to give you certain things that you needed, because again, I go back to the fact that you had no idea how to process feelings. You had no idea to look and go, oh, that person's an alcoholic. They don't know how to do it. No, you look and go, why won't that person give up alcohol for me? But you're forgetting that it isn't about you. So if somebody is an alcoholic or an addict or whatever, you're making it about you. I hear you. I hear you going, well, why? It really isn't about you. It is about that addiction. But you associate that with you, and it really isn't. Not to say that how you feel isn't like valid, but it isn't about you. So that I don't matter, you got to also remember what that is. Now, if we put that over here today as, big people, as adults, and you have this attachment and this fear of abandonment, you immediately think they need to understand my feelings. They need to make sure I'm okay. I want to put this back on, like, say, somebody else. You will never give them the validation in which they seek. When someone is confident in their boundaries, if you haven't worked on your own things, you're going to immediately think they're neglecting you. No, they are not neglecting you. They have what works for them. So when you find that someone is on this growth journey, this is why the same people who start on your journey don't always end up on your journey. These same people that we're talking about here, as they start developing, this is what I do, this is what makes me happy, this confidence, and then you don't have it, or let's say in this case, you have that and they don't. Now they're going to try to hit you with the whole, I can't believe you do that to me. Are you leaving me? You're going to see this on both sides of the coin. Now, there's a relational unpredictability. So if your connection in early life was chaotic, I live that, on and off, or even just emotionally unsafe, then your body is going to stay hyper alert to any signs of disconnection. Remember, if you go back to the thoughts podcast, the moment you say, this is how I feel, your brain goes, let's confirm that. So the moment you get that uneasy feeling, your brain goes, let's verify that and let's find it. So now you're looking for that bias, that confirmation, that's cognitive bias, and you'll find it regardless. So if it feels uncomfortable that somebody is breaking up with you or leaving or moving on, if that feels uncomfortable, your brain is scanning that, oh, it must mean that I'm not good enough. No, people can outgrow you and you can outgrow people in situations. That doesn't mean somebody doesn't deserve love. That doesn't mean they're unlovable. That doesn't mean any of that. I know you've heard reason, season, lifetime. People in your life for a reason, a season, a lifetime. Sometimes they get to decide that, and they're doing you a favor because then it's opening up space for people who align with you. This podcast, me working with me, I'm not going to be for everybody because I really am only going to be for the person who's kind of tired of their own stuff. They're really willing to allow that whatever I say that's triggering to look and go, wow, it's time for me to work on that. Or go, you know what? It's time for me to separate from somebody who really is not taking that growth. But I'm not going to be for everybody. So go back into that and realize everybody doesn't need to like you. A lot of people don't like themselves. No. So some people don't just fear abandonment, they're expecting it. Everybody's going to go. This is where if you've ever been on a date with somebody new, they might say to you, well, I just suck at relationships. I'm not good at relationships. Yeah, because now they're saying, well, if this doesn't work out, this proves my point. But once you expect it, your brain is going to scan for proof. So if you're always expecting abandonment, and then we have to ask, yourself, why if somebody leaves, is that a rejection? Maybe it's time to move on. I always tell you, ghosting somebody, if you get ghosted, they're doing you a solid favor. The problem is your insecurity, your attachments, your brain, your ego says, I must know why. You don't. Because if a person has to ghost you in order to separate without having a conversation, I'm not saying they have to make sure you're okay. They just go, hey, listen, you know what? I thought that this was going to be something and I'm just not feeling it. Yes, they are allowed to say, I'm just not feeling it. Hey, and then they move on. But when they're ghosting you, they are demonstrating to you that they are either have a fear of conflict, they don't know how to have a direct conversation. You don't want that in your space. So while your brain goes, oh man, it must be me, it isn't you at all. But your confirmation bias goes, nope, it's me. It's got to be me. No, it isn't you. So now let me tell you this, the people that you fear losing are holding entirely too much power, and don't think that they don't know this. So if you're with somebody, if you grew up with somebody, you have a sibling, you have a parent, or you're dating or you're married to somebody, they know you have a fear of abandonment. Now, this is where it's going to get uncomfortable. A lot of people don't just fear abandonment, they attach their identity to being chosen. So if somebody chooses you, you're enough. These are the reasons why narcissists, will always find someone who isn't quite on that part of their journey to where they feel confident. They're not quite on that journey where they realize that they don't have to have a person in order to be happy. They know this. Now, listen, everybody that you date is not a narcissist. So let's just put that out there. I'm just saying a narcissist person will find the person who isn't quite confident, who is afraid of being alone, who is afraid of hearing no. They know this. It's like a moth to the flame. So if you fear abandonment, you're going to attach your identity to being chosen, and then you do anything that you can to make sure that you're not rejected. Now, go on the other side of that. Have you ever had a person, doesn't have to be a romantic partner, that really was like, oh, please don't go, please don't leave, even if it's a parent? That relationship has to be there. It has to be, this is my identity. But here's the deal. So the person that you are afraid of losing becomes more than a person. They become a mirror of worth. So if they like you, if they approve you, if they smile at you, if they say, I love you, now they're saying, hey, you're worthy. It's a verdict on value. Do you hold value to them? Well, you know what? Sometimes your value is a little bit higher than what they're willing to pay, but you discount yourself. Stop discounting yourself. Not everybody is going to go in that way. And you guys know, I do a lot more things than just this. I've always been intuitive. I've always seen crossed over people. I am all about energy and crystals and all those things. And I can tell you that as you start to grow, your vibration raises. Well, your vibration raises, lower vibrational people. I didn't say better. I didn't say less. I said lower vibrational people. That's where you're in insecurity. You might be sad. You might have these things. I mean, normal things, but that doesn't mean that you don't vibrate low. So as you increase your vibration, it's going to be it's going to be discombobulated. And you have to understand this. You might not be on somebody's journey. Maybe they are taking a different path and they literally say to you, because they're not emotionally immature and going to ghost you, they can say, hey, listen, you know what? I'm starting a different part of my journey and you're just not part of that journey. See, you're going to hear that as like, oh my God, I'm not worthy. No, you're just not part of the journey. There's no feeling to it. They're working in a different direction. It has nothing to do with you. But if you looked at that as a mirror of worth, or a verdict on value, or proof of desirability, or evidence that you matter, that's why you're given too much power to somebody. Imagine this. You are the person who somebody has put on a pedestal. You're that person. You're the person that gives them joy. You're the person that makes them feel good about themselves. You're the person who does this. Now suddenly you're on a pedestal. No one is better than you. No one is less than you. Stop putting people on a pedestal and stop allowing yourself to be put on a pedestal. You're no better. They're no better. But the problem is they look at you or you look at them as this hierarchy of they make me so happy. No, a human cannot make you happy. They can bring joy. They cannot make you happy. So if you're in a place that you think people can bring you happy, then you and I really need to do some work. Because now if they leave, it doesn't just feel like loss, it's going to feel like a ruling. You are not enough, where it has absolutely nothing to do with you. But see, their leaving is not a ruling, it's just a decision. It's a preference. Yes, we would hope that we're not the same people at 40 as we were at 20 or 60 as we were at 20. Some people you could be in the same book, different pages. Stop trying to force everything into the same page or even in the same book. It's just a decision. It's just a preference. Maybe it's a limitation of what they want to give. You know, you ever have those people who look at you and they keep wanting more and more and more and more. And you're like, bro, I have a limitation. So do they. Maybe it's a misalignment. Just because you feel that you need somebody in the same room with you breathing oxygen doesn't mean that they're going to be in alignment with you. And sometimes it just is what it is. It's not a final statement about your worth. It has nothing to do with your value at all. So now this is where we're going to talk just briefly about breakups. I'm not really a relationship podcast kind of girl. You know, you can find plenty of relationship podcasts because I don't look at the collective. I'm always going to look at the solo person first. The relationships, but again, I mean, I'll touch on them because that's how part of life is. But I'm not just going to sit here and be like, this is how you make your relationship stronger. That's not this podcast. This podcast is, are you trying to make a relationship stronger that isn't supposed to be stronger in the first place? So they're different. There's a place for all of us, right? There's a place for everything you need. But why breakups can feel like a collapse to you is you're going to start to think that this is an identity thing. So anytime that you feel that you need to be with somebody 24/7 or they need to be with you 24/7, go back a few weeks ago and listen to the Autonomy podcast. People are not possessions. They are not meant to be attached to the hip. People need a life outside of you. But if you both are in attachment, that can be even more disastrous as far as like in an anxious attachment. But if you built parts of your identity around being needed, being loved, being chosen, being the one who stayed, being the one who made it work, you're the one, right? You're the one that goes, I need to make this work at all costs. And here's the thing. Let's say you've outgrown a relationship. It's time for you to like move forward. Stop worrying about how that person is going to feel about it and process it because you staying is not going to help them. So if you find them jumping through hoops, them doing all of those things, it's going to breed resentment on both of your parts. But if there is a breakup and you've identified value to, I must be in a relationship, then when somebody distance, it's going to feel like grief, withdrawal. Your nervous system's going to get dysregulated. You're going to go into obsessive thinking, possible shame, fantasies of the reunion. You fall in love with all of the good that you think that you had. No. So if you're being the one that made it work or you're trying to get them to feed your attachment healing, that's a problem. I hope that the people in your life are confident and strong and they know what they want and they're not going to sacrifice that because of your insecurities. Vice versa, by the way. That's what healthy communication, which we talked about before, and relationships look like. Self-blame, woe is me, this is about me. It's not about you at all. So this isn't just about heartbreak. This goes into your attachment rupture. So you can say, man, I think I've really worked on my attachments. No, you got to understand, just because you say you've worked on something and you feel that you've healed it, you just haven't been exposed to what originally triggered it. So don't convince yourself that you're so much better. I mean, and you are better, by the way, but that you're so much better that you've kind of moved past something when you're not faced with the trigger of it. Because people say that all the time, I'm doing so much better. Well, yes, because you haven't been put in position to use any tools. If there's a habit disruption, sometimes the person's just a habit. That's not a negative. I mean, we all have a habit. We have a system. We have a routine. We kind of, we know the people, they know us. We don't have to overthink it. So there's a habit. There could be a meaning collapse. Now this meaning is gone. But that's why people don't just miss the person. They're missing the version of themselves that they were trying to be with that person. And that's where it becomes a hard time. Now let's go into another one of my favorite topics, and that's the ego. There is an ego role in rejection. So look at it like this. There's the breaker upper and there's the breaker uppy. So if you're the person to break up, you might be like, oh my God, this sucks so bad. You might even feel uncomfortable, but you're going to be more inclined to be, okay, I can work through this quicker. If you're the breaker up E, that might be a little jarring in the beginning. It might take a little bit longer, but no one needs to sit here and keep clarifying and clarifying and clarifying over and over again. But you're always going to respond differently if you're the breaker upper versus the breaker up E. I mean, that's just how it is. So if you're the breaker up E, your ego can take a hit as well. Because see, the ego hates what they see as rejection because rejection threatens the story that your ego wants to tell. So the ego is going to ask, well, why wasn't I enough? What did they choose over me? And how do I get my power back? How do I make this mean less by making me mean more? No. But here's a better question. Not what was wrong with me. It's why did I hand my worth to someone whose leaving could collapse me? I want to say that again. Better question for yourself is, what was wrong with me? Let's change that to why did I hand my worth to someone whose leaving could collapse me? And that's where the real work is. Because again, you're taking the ownership versus becoming the victim. Victim statement, what was wrong with me? Growth statement, why did I hand my worth and my power over to someone whose leaving could collapse me? One is going to give you growth. One is going to let you see that, and that isn't to say, why did I hand my power over to somebody who was going to treat me? No, step it back. Let's walk that back a minute. Just ask yourself, was I an attachment? Did I have an expectation? Did I try to make somebody else happy for being in this relationship? So I do want to say that one more time. Not what was wrong with me, but why did I hand my worth to someone whose leaving could collapse me? And that's where that work is. So ego is going to turn rejection into a personal deficiency instead of misalignment. So it's got to be personal versus just the fact that, hey, this just wasn't going to work. So that's your ego. And then when you believe rejection means defectiveness, you chase people who should simply be mourned and released. Yep, feel it. Damn, I kind of really wanted that to go down. Damn. Well, all right. Well, that's obviously not going to work. I mean, this clearly comes with a lot of work. Like, I'm not expecting you to listen to this podcast and suddenly your attachments and ego are gone. And I think you need to be in a little bit of a reality of the same thing. And this can show up in real life too, not just in the relationships and just internal struggles. This can look like staying attached to people who repeatedly destabilize you. You ever around those people and you're like, oh my God, why do I always feel so crazy or so whatever? Okay, they're destabilizing you. Why are you staying? Stop trying to make them see the light. Stop trying to make them see value. They can't see that and they don't want to see it. If you're obsessing over somebody's opinion of you, that's your attachment and abandonment. There is a certain level, you become a very dangerous person, not in the way that's like problematic. You become a very dangerous person to their ego when they realize, well, damn, I keep saying this and they don't change or they're not affected by it. If you're chasing closure, my God, closure happened the moment it happened. The closure will never be enough for you. They walked out the door, they were gone. That is closure. Don't let your ego and all of these other things come into play where you want to feel better. No. If you're making one breakup, two breakups mean that you're fundamentally unlovable, that's not true either. If you're tolerating poor treatment because being left feels worse, this one is big. This is why this podcast happened from a session last week. And they said, please use this in the session this week or in the podcast. I said, absolutely. Tolerating poor treatment because being left feels worse. So you're willing to take the bare minimum because every now and again, once they see you growing, now they come back in and they give you those breadcrumbs. They're going to breadcrumb you just enough. And then you start tolerating poor treatment again because you're worried about it feeling bad for a minute or 2 minutes or 10 minutes or 10 years. Doesn't matter. And then this is ego trying to win someone back to prove you matter. That's not love. That now becomes a challenge. And then that's when attachment panic is mixed up with identity injury. Now, this is why somebody breaking up with you is not bad. Oh my goodness, it's actually quite rewarding. And this part is going to really matter. People treat breakups like some weird failure. It's not a failure. It just is a misalignment. We're done. It run its course. But here's what breakups can mean. There's an incompatibility. You ever date someone or even somebody in your family, you're thinking, damn, we are completely, we are incompatible. It doesn't just have to be love. It could be any relationship. There's a timing mismatch. You ever said to yourself, oh, maybe in a different time, this would be different? Time mismatch. Emotional immaturity. Maybe both of you are emotionally immature, or maybe you are working on yourself, they're not, or vice versa. Maybe you're the emotionally immature one and they're not. Avoidance. We already know if there's an avoidance attachment, it's going to be a problem. Unresolved trauma. It is up to each of us, me, you, them, each of us to work on our own trauma. And that means sometimes you got to do it without being in a relationship. And if someone is finally getting to that point where they're like, I need to take a step back, if you truly care, if they truly care, even if it hurts your feelings briefly, you want what's best for them, even if it isn't you. Lack of capacity. You ever say to yourself, oh my God, I just really don't have the capacity to deal with that bill, or I don't have the capacity to deal with this conversation. Sometimes people just don't have the capacity to have a relationship. Or the truth finally becomes obvious where it's like, damn, we really try to make this work. And we tried it a few times. We just we got to accept it. So a breakup is painful. That's fine, but it doesn't make it wrong. Not every relationship needs to be saved. Sometimes the bad thing isn't the breakup. It's the story that you're telling yourself after. I failed. See, here's a problem too. Ending a relationship is not a failure. It's freedom sometimes. So if you tell yourself it's a failure, then this way you hear family go, you must make it work. No, you don't have to make something work that is not meant to work. I lost my chance. No, calm down. We are not in a lottery. They were my only shot. I'll never be loved like that again. Here's another problem. I'll never be loved like that again. Good. Maybe you don't need to be loved like that again. And the stories themselves hurt way more than the ending. But there are things that can help. Healing abandonment and rejection is not about pretending it doesn't hurt. Feelings, let it come. It's about understanding that what the nervous system is doing, it's reacting. What old wounds are getting activated. I told you, if you're working with me, I will trigger you, and I want to trigger you, because those triggers are the unhealed wounds from the unhealed parts of you that keep begging for your attention, and you're not giving it to them because it's uncomfortable. So if we're together, or if this podcast is here for you, it's meant to trigger you, because I'm trying to give space for these inner parts of you that you keep neglecting because it's uncomfortable. So your old wounds are getting activated. What story are you making out of the pain, or of the pain? What storyline are you telling yourself? And what identity got attached to that loss? So here's what helps. Regulating the body before making a meaning. Just take a step back. Just take a step back. Separating your pain from self-worth. They are not together. They are separate. Grieving without chasing. You're allowed to be like, damn, this sucks. Because that's part of the human, anytime you break a bond, whether it's a trauma bond or a regular bond, it's going to feel a little like, ow, ooh, a little cut. But grieve without chasing. And that includes closure. Name the attachment wound. Name it. Ooh, damn, I was really, going back to what I said. Why was I putting myself not in a shaming way? What was happening that I was able to give them so much power that if they left, I would collapse? Look at that. Evaluate it. Don't judge it. Look at it as a reward for you. It's giving you the spotlight on what you need to kind of work on. Interrupt your catastrophic thinking. and rebuild your identity outside of being chosen. And this is why autonomy is so important. Don't be the person who doesn't know how to exist because that person is gone. This happens a lot with empty nest syndrome because you put everything into that. Stop doing that. You need a life outside of people, a meaning outside of humans. And most importantly, learn that someone leaving you is not the same as you being unworthy. Stop putting those together. Because abandonment and rejection hurts, but your body is wired for connection. That's not the bad part. That's just chemistry. That's just how it's going to work. But it's, hurt is not the same as truth. Somebody leaving is painful, but it's not proof that you're not enough. And then the people that you worry most about abandoning you often have that much power because you gave them the authority to define something that they were never qualified to define. They are not qualified to define your worth. They may not even know their worth. And that's not yours to deal with. So as we're coming to the end and getting ready to pop over to Patreon, I just want you to sit with that. Sit with that. Keep this on replay. Share this with someone who you feel may benefit from it. Don't shove it down their throat. Don't be like, you got to hear this. Just be like, hey, I know you're struggling with some things. This might be something at your time that you want to listen to, because this is putting a lot of the responsibility back on you. This is the power. I'm literally saying, here's power. I'm giving you power back. I'm saying, take this power back. Stop looking at the other people as something they did, something they need. No, it's not about, do they deserve you? It's none of that. This is about you. Because then that attachment, it shows up in different areas of your life. But you'll need to do that. So you are valuable, you are worthy. And just because something ends doesn't mean it's abandonment or rejection.